Imagine this. You're in the middle of a conversation and suddenly someone says something that sends your blood pressure skyrocketing. It could be a harmless comment or an outright insult, but in that moment, your heart races, your hands sweat, and the urge to snap back feels almost irresistible. But what if you could stop yourself before it even started? What if you could live your life unfazed by the actions and words of others? We've all been there. The frustration, the anger, the frustration that seems to come out of nowhere. But here's the truth. It's not them, it's you. More specifically, it's your reactions to them. By the end of this guide, you'll learn how to stay calm and collected no matter how others behave. The Stoics have mastered this art for centuries, and now it's your turn to do the same. Let's dive in. Section 1. Self-awareness. The key to emotional freedom. How many times have you found yourself reacting without thinking? The words or actions of others hit you like a sudden jolt, and before you know it, your emotions are in the driver's seat. Anger, frustration, irritation, these feelings can quickly spiral, often leaving you feeling powerless, as though you're simply a passenger in your own life. But what if I told you that the emotions you feel aren't as inescapable as they seem? That the key to emotional freedom lies not in controlling your surroundings, but in understanding your reactions. The Stoics were masters of this. They believed that true freedom begins with self-awareness, the ability to recognize your emotions and understand that they stem not from external events, but from your own thoughts. Think about John, a guy who would lose his cool every time his colleague Sarah was late to a meeting. At first, the anger seemed justified. After all, her lateness disrupted the flow of things. But as he started journaling, reflecting on why her tardiness bothered him so much, he uncovered something surprising. It wasn't Sarah's behavior that triggered him, but his own deep-seated fear of being judged by his boss for not being punctual. Once John saw this, his anger felt less urgent, less all-consuming. It wasn't Sarah who had the power over his emotions. It was his own mind, making him react. The power of self-awareness is that it allows you to take a step back and recognize when you're letting a fleeting moment of frustration control you. You can pause, reflect, and ask yourself, what's really triggering me? Is it the external event or my perception of it? The next time you feel that surge of emotion, whether it's anger, frustration, or even jealousy, don't let it dictate your response. Instead, take a moment to pause. Ask yourself why you feel the way you do. Is the situation truly as important as your emotions are making it seem? Often, the moment you recognize that your emotional reaction is more about your thoughts than the external world, you gain back control. As Marcus Aurelius wisely noted, our power lies in our ability to control our own minds. When we realize this, we unlock a deep inner strength, one that no external event can diminish. The situation may still unfold, but how you choose to respond is entirely in your hands. Section 2. Reframe your mindset. It's not personal. How often do you take someone's words or actions as a direct hit to your character? Someone cuts you off in traffic, a friend cancels plans last minute, or a colleague offers a sharp critique. In each of these moments, the instinct is to personalize the situation, to feel that somehow these actions are an attack on who you are. We feel insulted, disrespected, hurt, because we believe the world is responding directly to us. But here's the Stoic secret. It's never really about you, not in the way we think. Anyway, People's behavior is more about their own internal struggles, their experiences, and their state of mind than it is about you. And when you reframe this truth, you begin to free yourself from the emotional weight of taking things personally. Sophia learned this after countless frustrating moments with a friend who would cancel plans at the last minute. At first, she felt hurt, disrespected, and taken for granted. How could someone who claimed to care about her be so inconsiderate? But after diving into Stoicism, she started to see things differently. Her friend's behavior wasn't an attack on her, it was a reflection of her own personal struggles. Her friend worked long hours in a demanding job and was juggling multiple personal issues that Sophia had no way of knowing about. When Sophia reframed the situation, the cancellations didn't feel as painful anymore. They weren't personal. They were simply the result of her friend's life circumstances. The Stoics taught that external events, especially the actions of others, are neutral. It's not their behavior that causes our distress. It's our judgment of that behavior. We assign meaning to these events, and when we take them personally, we allow others to control our emotional state. But the truth is, people's actions reflect their inner world, not ours. Next time someone cuts you off in traffic or responds to you with irritation, pause for a moment. Instead of immediately feeling hurt or offended, ask yourself, what's going on in their life that I don't see? Maybe they're stressed, tired, or facing challenges you know nothing about. When you shift from taking it personally to seeing it as a reflection of their own struggles, the sting of their actions begins to lose its power over you. Remember, your peace of mind doesn't depend on the actions of others. It lies in how you choose to interpret them. When we stop making everything about us, we can navigate life with much more grace and freedom. The world may act in unpredictable ways, but how we choose to respond is always within our control. The Stoics understood this deeply. Our thoughts shape our reality. When we stop taking things personally, we regain our own strength and serenity. Section 3. Cultivate patience and compassion. It's easy to feel frustrated when someone doesn't behave the way we expect them to. We assume that if we were in their shoes, we'd handle things better, more gracefully, more kindly, or more efficiently. But here's the thing. People are not you. They are not bound by your experiences, your expectations, or your standards. They have their own struggles, their own stories, and their own limitations. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that getting upset when others don't meet our expectations was a recipe for perpetual frustration. Instead, they suggested we shift our mindset. Instead of reacting with judgment, we could choose to respond with patience and compassion. After all, most people aren't deliberately trying to hurt you. They're simply navigating their own complex worlds. Michael, for example, had a boss who frequently gave him harsh feedback after meetings. Initially, Michael would seethe with anger. Feeling like his efforts were unappreciated, he'd replay the conversation in his mind, stewing over every word. But after spending time reflecting on Stoic principles, Michael realized that his boss's criticisms were likely a result of the pressure he was under from upper management. Instead of responding with frustration, Michael chose to listen with empathy. He acknowledged his boss's own challenges and approached the situation with a sense of understanding. This shift in perspective not only eased his own frustration, but also improved his relationship with his boss. The truth is, we often expect others to behave according to our own standards, but we can't forget that everyone has different backgrounds, struggles, and ways of reacting to the world. The next time someone is rude or inconsiderate, instead of jumping to judgment, ask yourself, what might they be going through that I don't see? This simple shift can open the door to greater patience and understanding. The Stoics weren't advocating for passivity or complacency. They believed that, by practicing compassion, we could better navigate the chaos of human interactions. Patience doesn't mean you allow others to walk all over you. It means you recognize their humanity, their flaws, and their struggles. And in doing so, you maintain your own peace. Remember, as the Stoics taught, we can only control how we respond, not how others act. Responding with patience and compassion doesn't just help others. It helps you remain anchored in your own calm, no matter what storms swirl around you. Section 4. Emotional Management. A practical Stoic toolset. Emotions can feel overwhelming, especially in moments of conflict or stress. Anger, frustration, sadness, they come on strong, flooding our minds and bodies. But the Stoics didn't simply talk about managing emotions. They offered real practical tools to help us navigate these overwhelming feelings with clarity and composure. The Stoic approach to emotional management is not about suppressing emotions or pretending they don't exist. Rather, it's about acknowledging them without letting them control us. One of the most effective tools they recommended was something as simple as taking a deep breath and creating space between the emotional trigger and our reaction. Sophia, for example, used to struggle with her temper. Whenever something went wrong, especially at work, her initial impulse was to react quickly, often with sharp words or a sarcastic remark. But after learning about Stoic practices, she started to implement a technique: deep breathing. The next time her colleague, Mark, turned in a report late again, she felt the familiar surge of anger rising within her. But instead of responding immediately, she paused. She took a deep breath, counted to 3, and allowed herself a moment of calm before speaking. It was awkward at first, but over time, this pause became second nature. The result? Instead of an impulsive outburst, Sophia responded with clarity and composure, calmly addressing the issue without letting her emotions take the lead. This technique is far from trivial. In fact, the Stoics believed that mastering your emotions requires small, consistent practices that build up over time. In addition to deep breathing, Stoic practices like mindfulness, mental timeouts, and reflective journaling all help create emotional space. By slowing down, you create the distance needed to make more thoughtful decisions. So next time you feel your emotions rising, whether it's anger, frustration, or anxiety, remember that you don't have to react right away. Pause, breathe. Give yourself the space to decide how you want to respond. Emotions are not the problem. They are a signal that something needs your attention. The power lies in how you choose to engage with them. Ultimately, the Stoics taught that emotional freedom comes not from avoiding difficult feelings, but from developing the strength to respond to them thoughtfully, not reactively. By taking a moment to breathe, reflect, and choose our response, we regain control over our emotions rather than letting them control us. Remember, emotional mastery isn't a one-time achievement. It's a daily practice, and the more we practice, the more we'll find ourselves walking through life with steadiness, clarity, and a profound sense of inner peace. Section 5. Set boundaries. Protect your peace. We all know the feeling, being drained by someone else's negativity or demands. It could be a friend who constantly dumps their problems on you, a colleague who never respects your time, or a family member who doesn't understand when to give you space. And as much as you might want to help, support, or be there for them, it's impossible to pour from an empty cup. The truth is, not every situation deserves your emotional investment. Not every person deserves your energy. The Stoics understood the importance of setting boundaries, not just for the sake of others, but for your own mental and emotional well-being. Setting boundaries isn't about being cold or distant. It's about recognizing your limits and protecting your peace. It's about knowing when to say enough, without guilt, without resentment, and without feeling responsible for everyone's happiness. Take John, for example. He had a friend who was always negative, constantly complaining about work, relationships, and life in general. Initially, John tried to be a good friend, offering advice and sympathy every time his friend needed to vent. But over time, he began to feel exhausted. The constant negativity was draining him, leaving him feeling drained and helpless. John realized that he was letting his friend's problems take up too much of his own emotional space. It wasn't that he didn't care, but he recognized that in order to maintain his own peace, he needed to set some boundaries. John gently began limiting his time with this friend. Instead of engaging in long, energy-sucking conversations, he started choosing to spend time with people who lifted him up, people who brought positivity into his life. Setting this boundary wasn't easy, but it was necessary. John wasn't abandoning his friend. He was simply taking care of his own emotional needs. Next time you find yourself surrounded by negativity or overwhelming demands, ask yourself, does this situation deserve my emotional energy? Is this conversation or relationship helping me grow, or is it draining me? It's okay to step back. It's okay to say no. You don't have to carry the weight of others' problems, especially when it comes at the cost of your own peace. The Stoics believed that true wealth comes not from possessions, but from having few wants, few distractions, few desires that pull you away from your inner calm. Setting boundaries is one way to safeguard that peace. It's not selfish, it's self-preserving. Remember, your energy is precious. Protect it like the valuable resource it is. Section 6. Focus on solutions, not emotions. Life is filled with moments that stir up intense emotions, anger, frustration, disappointment, and it's easy to get stuck in those feelings, to let them consume us and define our experience. When something goes wrong, we tend to focus on the problem and the emotions it triggers, often spinning in circles of negativity. But the Stoics taught us that the key to overcoming adversity lies not in getting lost in our emotions, but in focusing on solutions. Instead of stewing in frustration, the Stoics encouraged us to ask a simple question: what can I do to resolve this? Emotions are natural. They arise for a reason, but they don't have to control us. When we shift our attention from the problem to the solution, we regain our agency. We stop being passive recipients of the world's difficulties and become active participants in solving them. Sophia had a co-worker named Mark, who was perpetually late with reports. Every time this happened, Sophia felt anger bubble up. She thought, how hard is it to get your work in on time? But rather than allowing the anger to fester, Sophia remembered the Stoic teaching to focus on solutions, not emotions. She didn't stew in frustration or allow herself to get dragged into negativity. Instead, she decided to approach Mark directly, but with a mindset of collaboration, not confrontation. She asked him why the reports were always late and what obstacles he was facing. Mark opened up about his struggles to balance his workload, and together they came up with a solution. Sophia offered to help him streamline some of his tasks, and Mark promised to communicate better moving forward. By focusing on finding a solution, they not only improved their working relationship, but also resolved the issue without letting anger dictate their behavior. Next time you find yourself frustrated, ask yourself, what's the next step to resolve this issue? Rather than letting the emotions cloud your judgment, turn your focus to finding a constructive way forward. In every challenging situation, there's an opportunity to solve the problem, not just react to it. The Stoics knew that what matters is not the problem itself, but how we choose to respond. Emotions may arise, but they don't have to control us. By focusing on solutions, we regain our sense of agency, and we can move through life's obstacles with purpose and clarity. Remember, it's not what happens to you that defines you, but how you react to it. By choosing to focus on the solution, you empower yourself to overcome any challenge with wisdom, grace, and resilience. Conclusion: the power of unshakable calm. What if you could face life's storms with a deep, unshakable calm? Instead of being swept away by frustration or anger, you could stand firm, unaffected by the chaos around you. This isn't just for a select few. It's available to anyone who chooses to cultivate it. And the Stoics have shown us the way. By practicing self-awareness, reframing your mindset, setting boundaries, and focusing on solutions, you can navigate life's challenges with grace. The world will still test you, but you'll be able to respond with dignity and inner peace. Remember, you can't control the world, but you can control how you react to it. True peace comes from mastering your own mind, not the world around you. If this guide resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your experiences in the comments below. Thank you for being part of this journey. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I look forward to connecting again soon. Your peace is your strength. See you next time.